This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast with me, Jason Greenwood, your host. It is my pleasure to welcome our next incredible guest to talk about a topic that I am super interested in. So I'm very much looking forward to having this conversation. Welcome, Mr. Troy Siwek, and you are from Greyorange. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jason. Happy to be here. This is awesome.
Look, I'm super excited to talk to you about this today. A lot of people, they don't think logistics is sexy. I'm of the opinion that logistics is super sexy. It's one of the most interesting parts of what I do as a solution architect. It's one of the most interesting parts of being an enterprise architect for commerce and everything related to commerce. I like to say, and I've said many times before, e-commerce in particular is pretty much just logistics with a really pretty face. And so the reality is that I think before we get into specifically what you guys do, I think there was two things that happened in my career that made me become much more interested in the logistical parts of our industry than ever before. One was when I was working inside of a brand and we replatformed every piece of technology in the business, including our WMS, our OMS, our IMS, and we automated significant portions of our warehouse operations. It was 100% manually organized and operated. We did not have chaotic put away. It was just a legacy. It was configured as a legacy warehouse. And then we brought in carouseling systems that could bring items from the back of the warehouse to the front of the warehouse so people didn't have to cart these carts back and forward and do miles a day on their feet. And we implemented chaotic put away, and we regained about 20% of the space of our warehouse and the efficiency of our warehouse as a result. And as a result of going through that massive transformation of our internal warehouse capabilities and our internal logistics capabilities, and even the speed with which we could devan and receipt items went through the roof, and it just made us so much more efficient without having to expand our physical warehouse footprint. That was the first thing. And then I'm really into natural health. I'm a big fan of natural health, and I regularly buy off of iHerb in the United States. And a number of years ago, they put out a video because I was always interested in them. And so I remember I don't know how I came across this specific video. I think I just was searching YouTube for information about iHerb, and one of their internal logistics hardware and software development partners had put together the show reel of their warehouse operations. And I was absolutely flabbergasted. I was blown away by these automated pick pack systems that could go up pallet racking hydraulically, pull totes down, grab items out of the totes with camera systems so that pick the right thing. Like, I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. It felt like Star Wars for the warehouse. And that's how I became excited about the power of automation and technology inside these very legacy feeling operations of a business, the bowels of a business, so to speak. How did you come to be in this space?
That's a great setup. I was in your world before I came to Greyorange, so I spent a couple decades, we'll limit it to that just to keep me young enough, in e-commerce, omnichannel. I was doing consulting for enterprises, like large enterprises in that space. And then I started in retail. I've always been in retail my whole career. And I got into software. I started at Ulta, my career, like right out of college. It was called Ulta 3 back then. And then .com era came. I decided to jump into the .com space, third-party fulfillment. I got into some software companies and eventually was part of a software company that was bought by IBM. And because I was doing so many e-com implementations, some of the earliest, so I would do a big retailer's first website, their first third-party fulfillment site rather than a distribution center and all that. So I became pretty much a go-to consultant in that space for a while it was super cool. Smarter commerce commercials on the NFL games and stuff like that. That was when I was doing e-com consulting. And then I moved to other things like SAP, Workday, the big implementation, staying in retail. And somebody called me from Greyorange. I didn't know Greyorange very well or much at all. And honestly, I wasn't familiar. I was in a comfortable position, so wasn't that interested, to be honest. And then, like the story you just told, I went to a site with the CEO and I was like, this stuff is just, it's mind blowing what can be done now with robotics and software and AI and just learning. And it sounds like it would be a lot more complicated than that, but I was a no. And then when I saw this, I'm like, this is where it's at. This is the future. The ability to do what would happen in these big sites was you would build these, and people are still doing it today, so I shouldn't talk in the past, but they build these huge fixed infrastructure facilities. That's great if you're going to do the same thing for 10 years or 8 years or something like that, because some CFO is capitalizing that fixed infrastructure project. But when you introduce robotics and this configurable warehouse, if you will, now you have flexibility. You can change. You can say, oh, this is the new thing we're doing, or the market's changed and we need bigger products or smaller products. And you're not stuck with that fixed infrastructure. And with my background, like in e-com and working with, you saw it, you mentioned it, the old fulfillment center versus the new fulfillment center. I was like, wow, this is sexy. And I could just see that this is where it's at. Obviously, Amazon's doing it. They've been doing it for years, but it's harder for other companies to do it. They just don't have that scale and that bank account. So this was just really cool for me. I went from no to yes. And about 3 years ago, I moved over. And then now we've moved. So that's our mature part of the business. And now we have retail software. So we're doing the same level of intelligence inside the retail stores. And that's really what I've been doing for the last year, is running our retail unit alongside the supply chain robotics business that we have.
Wow, very cool. It is. Sometimes they say don't meet your heroes, but in this particular case, they also say people like to see how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Yeah.
And sometimes that takes a little bit of the mystique out of it. For me, it actually put more mystique into it, to be honest, is how does this stuff go from what I historically in my career, early in my career, I was solely focused on the front end commerce experience and kind of everything that facilitated that, everything that supported that, all the data that would come in from various systems to support, okay, multi-location inventory, multi-location warehousing, order management from split orders to back orders to pre-orders to carrier integrations and carrier aggregator integrations so that we could present the right shipping option to the right customer in the right scenario and all that stuff. So I was very much early in my career focused on all that aspect of commerce, but I wasn't as focused on the back office systems and technologies that made all that possible until I went out and until I had been through a few of these programs of work internally inside brands. So I actually knew both the front piece and the back office piece because when I was in that same brand I was referring to before, we replatformed our ERP. So we went from a legacy ERP to NetSuite. We had an old legacy custom WMS/OMS. We went to Descartes PeopleVox as our WMS, and we upgraded basically all of our technology to cloud technologies from a lot of old, crappy on-prem technologies. And once I had gone through the whole entire thing over about 3 years worth of work of replatforming all these technologies, system integrating them together and everything else, I felt like, okay, now I know all the back end stuff. I know all the front end stuff and how they all have to share data with each other in a meaningful way to make this stuff play nice together. And then after I went back into agency land and now for the last 5 years been a consultant, and I feel like it makes me a better consultant. I feel like it makes me a better entrepreneur. I feel like it gives me more empathy for the change management required for these massive transformations that these businesses go through. It is bloody. Would you replatform pretty much every single piece of technology you use operationally in your business, even if you spread that out over 2-3 years, it's hard. And there's the trough of despair in the middle of that. You got to champion that. Oh, and you got to keep the faith over a long period of time to see these projects through to fruition. But when you do, the payoff can be immense, can't it?
It can be huge, right? Both in the retail side with our clients, when we implement something that's cutting edge, they go through that despair. I've heard some of your shows talk about master data. Wow, that thing can creep up and haunt the sexiest of technology projects, whether it's robotics or if it's RFID in stores. If somebody's mashed together their style, size, color for certain things and not other things, that can just slow your whole project down by 3 months. So, yeah, it's like everything is changing and everything is the same as I move through my career. And even when I see these super advanced projects with these advanced scientists, you can run into some of the same old stinky problems that I ran into in 2005 when I was helping people get their first website up and running. But I would say in the fulfillment space, I've seen a little bit of a pendulum swing back and forth. So originally, if you remember, DCs could not do fulfillment. So if you were talking to any size retailer, it was really hard. They had all their stuff, um, basically all their shirts and pants and stuff were stuffed in a box up
Yep.
on a warehouse shelf, and then they
Yep.
would ship that out to the store. So there was just no way they could do e-commerce shipping from a warehouse, because they would have to split it all out, skew it all up, tag it with different license plates, and it was just too hard for them. So most of them went third-party fulfillment. Then that got expensive for some, and so they built their own fulfillment centers, and then they had trouble like counterbalancing between fulfillment centers and where do I put them. I got to go over the Pacific mountains to get people in California, so I need to. They started thinking about how do I put a fulfillment center network out there, especially the big enterprises. And now what we're seeing is there's a shift back to shift from stores. So it used to be that labor and the cost of shipping and the cost to do that is just too much. But I have two clients now that have moved from third party fulfillment to majority of shipping out of the stores because of the access of information, the inventory's there, they're closer. So maybe the labor is a little bit more expensive in some cases than it would be in a fulfillment center in Arizona or something like that. But they're so close that they save on shipping, they save on shipping time. So it's amazing how much is changing with the advent of AI, data, tools that make it easier for people to do these transactions. It's just incredible.
And I've also seen, and I'd love your take on this. There's two things that drop out of exactly what you just said, which is omnichannel businesses today, they have different permutations as they go throughout their life cycle as a business, as they maybe expand across the country. And so they have more physical locations that they want to pull stock from. They either want to ship from store, they want to facilitate click and collect, or will call in the B2B world. They want to facilitate click and collect, both a combination of real click and collect from store inventory, or click and collect where the customer still has the ability to click and collect, but it has to be shipped from a DC to the store for them to then collect, which is what I call virtual click and collect, or quasi click and collect, fake click and collect, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
because you're not actually doing click and collect from store inventory. So the customer has to be notified, okay, cool, it's going to be 3 days before you can go and click and collect it from this store. And then all of the customer experience permutations that are associated with that, and all the optionality you want to be able to surface at the right time to the customer as they execute their buying journey. I think that's something super important that businesses are trying still to wrap their head around. And it does depend a little bit on how big they are, how big of a physical store footprint they may or may not have, but also customer experience expectations around being able to pick up an item wherever they like, whether it's from a DC, whether it's from a physical store, whether it's having it shipped, whether it's having it partially shipped, partially collected, depending on where it's available from, being able to make a choice based on how much it's going to cost me versus the speed of getting it to me, being able to have multiple shipping options and services with different prices associated with that, and giving customer optionality with that. I feel like that level of expectation from the customer has just exacerbated this problem. It's not just how can we efficiently do this as a business, and how efficiently can we fulfill, and how efficiently can we leverage existing inventory across every inventory location, physical and virtual, but it's also how can we marry that up with the best possible customer experience we can create. And that has created some incredible challenges for these at scale businesses.
That's right. That's right. So the part where you get into promising customer expectations, so we generally deal with at Greyorange, we deal with the bigger enterprise clients, or the biggest in some cases. And so the tech that is coming into play in the future that we're doing in R&D right now is amazing. But what's in production today, you getting them to, if you think of an omni-channel order, the ability to promise stock is so important. But then you have these customers, these pesky customers walking around the store dropping stuff into a physical basket, right? The 5 years ago, 6 years ago, omni-channel thing was, let's do a safety stock, right? So let's put in, if it's an item that we think does sell good or might sell good, or there's an ad coming up and we're concerned, you would say, I'm going to allow 80%, 50% of this item to be sold by the omni-channel, by the e-com site, by the app, whatever it is, but we have to protect the rest because we don't want to disappoint the customer. The stuff we're doing, especially in the fashion, sportswear, footwear businesses, is everything's RFID tagged, or most of it is. So we put readers with our partners, we put readers in the stores. And so they have the exact quantity, the exact location. They know where everything is. They know if something's in a fitting room or behind the cash wrap or in the returns area. They know where everything is. So they can get to a more precise scientific level of promising that we haven't seen before. 5 years ago, nobody would take that risk, right? Or most companies wouldn't take that risk. And then if you think about that's really transactional. What can I promise in an e-com order?
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about the retail consumer, the ones that are coming in and walking in, foot traffic, right? Still knowing this information, where everything is, how much do I have? This store's got way too many. This store's got way too less based on today's sales. Now you incorporate cameras and video, basically computer vision technology into a platform, into our platform, right? We can say what displays are working great, what I would tell you is, you know, that e-com is where all the investment, most of the investment dollars have been in retail for a decade or more, right? So they pour it into the e-com experience, the digital experience, AI. There's been AI agents for years now talking to people online, and none of that investment has gone back into the store right now. It's still mostly the same experience in the store, other than some of the places have automated checkout or self checkout. But other than that, it's still a pretty similar experience. They'll dabble in kiosks or fitting room technology, but you still walk in, you still pick up items. They don't know who you are. They don't have a recommendation engine for the store. They can't help you live unless they throw an associate at you. All that is what we're seeing change over the next few years. There's going to be a massive change because you can start to drive a data initiated digital experience in the store. So virtual store associates, things like that. So you're going to see this kind of not a full balancing out, but closer balancing of data driven activity in the store that you've seen in e-commerce for so long, right? It's time to play catch up in the store. Now, what Greyorange does, we help in the fulfillment centers, right? We help them get things faster. So you were talking about all the different permutations of somebody's asking for something. How do we get it faster? When you have robots involved in a 24/7 cycle in a fulfillment center and you start to get real-time orders, you can get those orders out faster. You can use software to prioritize it faster, not using a traditional WMS, not using like the waving. If you remember, you said you did some
Yes,
warehouse
wave
project.
picking. Yep.
Waving. Oh my gosh, like dinosaur age. Let's take a big batch of orders that we accumulated a day ago and just drop it to the warehouse and hope for the best. This is like real time robots changing. Oops, we got a next day order. The robot just changes and goes and gets that and prioritizes it. So from the fulfillment omnichannel to the retail store, the stuff that I get to do now in this job is it's just really cool. It's like I was given a toy. I'm back like childhood years when you get that new toy that you've been hoping for. I got a new retail toy. And that's this job, the stuff we get to do.
I love that. And I, like you, have been frustrated with the physical. I do 90% of my shopping online because there's a number of reasons for that. One, I work in the industry, and so I'm always trying to see what the latest experiences are available out there. But for the most part, I really don't like physical shopping. Even
Right,
for grocery, 9 times out of 10, I just order it online. I get it shipped to my door, and I'm willing to pay the extra for the shipping cost. But I have been blown away by the lack of innovation. I started
right,
thinking 15 years ago, why can I, on the mobile app, because we started having some pretty decent mobile apps 10 years ago especially, and I
right.
thought, why can I not, in the mobile app, once as soon as I walk into one of these physical retail stores, why can't it help me navigate to the thing I'm looking for? Why do I have to look at the signs? Why do I have to find somebody and ask them, oh, where's this thing? Oh, I looked online, it said you had it available in store, I've gone to the shelf where it should be, oh, it's not there, do you actually have it in stock? Oh, go up to the customer service desk, they'll check the system for you, see if we've actually got it in stock, and they'll send a stock boy out to see if they can find it on the floor somewhere. Maybe somebody put it away wrong, or maybe it was bought and then returned, and oh yeah, we do have it in stock, but we've got to check it because because it was returned, and so we haven't put it back out yet. Or I thought during COVID, for example, that QR codes would become the norm. And okay, cool, I'm in a shop and it's got 2 air fryers there, but I know they got 50 air fryers available online. Why can't I have a QR code that takes me directly to that category, either on their website, on my mobile, or in the app, so that I can
Right.
see the full range and I can actually pay for it, buy it there, add it to my cart in store, pay for the whole lot in store, including that air fryer, and then have the air fryer shipped because they don't have it physically in store, but I want to pay for the rest of my stuff right there. Why can't I have a unified cart in store for those types of experiences? I've just thought for a very long time the technology has always been there as a loose knit suite of technology, but I just see so few people bringing all those components of the digitalized consumer experience together. I just don't see it, and I've been perennially disappointed in the retail experience as a result.
It's you're not the only one. It's just I do a little bit of both. I enjoy shopping online and using apps way more because of
Yeah.
everything you said. But because my clients are big retailers, we're just pushing them. We're showing them what's available. We don't I was on with a new tech company in Silicon Valley today that creates a digital twin of the store, and that I can't get into everything they will do, but just the way it's going to jump forward in the next couple of years. But at retailers, there's the 10% ish, that's my number in my head, of like forward moving, let's try it first, let's fail fast. And then there's this glut of like 60%. The next 60% is I want to see you do it and I want to see you make mistakes. And then I'll start to pick it up. So we're working with that 10% forward thinking group of customers. Like, how do we improve that? So the QR code thing is something that everybody should have, but I feel like it's going to even leapfrog that. And the way that the data is going to be able to, the various forms of data from computer vision to the RFID tags that we're using, the overhead readers, things at the exits of the store, you'll start to get this picture of everything that's happening in the store. So Jason goes into the store and he's aggravated because he doesn't see the color, whatever, the waffle maker he wants. And you could, if you opted in, there's some data things that have to be considered here, some privacy things, but you could have a situation where an associate could get something in their ear from an AI bot saying, there's a frustrated customer in aisle 2 looking at waffle makers. Can you make sure to head over there and help them? Or maybe there's even a technology solution for that. There's kiosks on every shelf that can wake up and
Or
give
this
you
thing
some.
here with NFC technology, and if I've got the app installed and I give it the permission, then it can give me messaging and all sorts of things directly through the app so that it can guide me to a better experience in
Ultra
store through the
wideband,
self-service.
yeah.
Totally.
Exactly, ultra wideband. So it's just like the Apple key tag finders,
Yeah, the air tags.
yeah, the AirTags, right? So all that technology is there. It's been there for 10 years. It's not new, but incorporating it into the store experience, digital store experience, if you will, that's possible. It's all just has to be driven from the data, knowing that you have the inventory. I think a lot of the fear in the retailers is the lack of good data.
Hmm.
So they're afraid to make a technology move, and then the data is holding them back, whether that's the product catalog or the inventory accuracy or whatever it might be. I think that creates a FUD for them, and that's why they wait on these projects.
But doesn't RFID help to start? It's not a silver bullet for everything, but certainly RFID is not exactly new technology. RFID isn't exactly something that requires AI to drive it now. Of course, you can do lots of cool things with the back end of the data of the physical inventory movements that come in via RFID scanning and real time tracking. Then you can crunch some numbers. You can make sure that you can start to understand, okay, when I put this display here, it increases sales. But if I put the same display over here, it doesn't. It decreases sales. If I even down to exact store layouts of how things are presented, merchandised. Also, when we start thinking about the integration of not only physical store layouts, but when we think of retail media networks and when we start thinking of retail media technology and what that does in terms of certain placements, certain ads being related to certain products, and how the distance between the ad being shown and where the customer can actually pick up that item and walk out the store with it. There's so many data points that can come into these centralized. The days of the dumb pause are over. Like
Right.
at least if you want to survive the next 5 to 10 years, the days of the dumb point of sale system are completely over with. You just cannot. And to your point, yes, those of us that have lived in the digital world for 20 plus years, I'm in my 25th year now, we love to tout digital technology. And I'm the first one to be an advocate for digital technology, e-commerce, and particularly in the B2B world, EDI, punch out, all that sort of stuff is awesome. But we also have to acknowledge, and we have to maybe lower our ego a little bit and say 60 to 70% of all retail transactions still happen in a physical retail store. So
Right. Exactly.
maybe we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. Maybe we should make the investment in technology at least equal to where the revenue is coming from. So if we're going to invest $100 into new technology, shouldn't at least 60 to 70 dollars of that $100 go into our retail tech, considering the fact that only 20 to 30% of our revenues are coming from digital channels still as of 2025? And this is a hard discussion to have because I'm the digital guy. So
Right.
I'm a massive advocate for digital investment, but even I have to be able to help my clients be realistic about where the world is at today.
Yeah, and they have to come together, right? So the e-com and the digital, even though they're separate storefronts, they have to come together because at least I was going to say our generation, but I don't know. My generation was a little more traditional in terms of engagement with people, but there's newer generations that might prefer to deal with digital, not
Yes.
a human, right? I don't want to wait for an associate. I don't want to go ask someone. I don't know if they're having a bad day or not. I don't want to deal with that. So they're expecting an in-store digital experience. The RFID, there's different kinds of RFID, and I'm not going to geek out on that, but the RFID that we use, the technology that we use, can pinpoint the accuracy of an item within a meter, right? So within
Wow.
a store, we know where everything is. And so what that means is what we didn't deal with when we do ecom programs is there's a lot of constraints in the store that we never had to deal with in the ecom world. So something's available or it's not available in the ecom world, right? It's in that fulfillment center or wherever you have it physically at. It's either there or it's not. There's no further constraint than that. But in a store, it could be in the back room. So if you think about a fashion store that's got 20 variations of a shirt that's hot, right? Think of a sporting goods situation or an athletic wear situation. But the medium black is what she's buying. That's the number one seller. But if you look at a rack and you're a store associate that's busy in a busy store at Oak Brook, Illinois, or in Minnesota or wherever, and there's only 4 store associates and you're just going back and forth, you don't know that medium is missing. That doesn't happen on an e-commerce site. It's either available or it's not.
Yeah.
So what having that inventory information at that level of accuracy does is it can alert the associate, the manager, shoot the home office that the hottest selling SKU in our catalog right now is in the back room in that store in Oak Brook, Illinois. We need to get an alert out. The technology will do an alert, right? But whatever you want to render it as a task will tell them emergency, your biggest selling SKU, the mediums in the back room, bring it up now. So that's kind of our number one use case right now, Jason, is pushing inventory where it needs to be. And where we think this will go, we got to get the retailers to catch up, is knowing that if you have that level of information, now you can envision, is the stuff where it's supposed to be at more of a macro level? Is the store set up properly? You
Mm-hmm.
can flip your A/B channel, your merchandising strategy on your digital merchandising strategy on your website with the flip of a switch, right? You can
Yeah.
have 3 variants just ready to go for the weekend. You can't do that in the stores because there's physical capacity limitations, but you can start to map out where are my problem areas, where it could be just because of staffing or bad weather or whatever might be happening, but you can start to map out an operational, like NASA room that says, an operations room that says, we're having trouble in Manhattan right now. The stores aren't merchandising correctly. We need to beef up our staffing in those areas, or we need to get to those store managers and tell them to push this product into the right area, get the denim up to the front. It's cold outside, whatever that might be. Just having that level of information is much more than they had a couple years ago. They just, and most retailers still don't have it. They don't know what's happening in the store right now. The e-com sites, you know what's happening. You pull up your dashboard, you go to your digital war room, and you can see what's happening and you can make instant changes. I think that gap you were talking is going to be lessened quite a bit over the next few years.
And how far away are we from robotic sales associates rolling? Because at the moment you can go to some restaurants and they got the rolling servers where they have a tray of food, they bring it out from the back and it rolls out and it rolls up to your table. A robot rolls up to your table, it hands the tray of food over to you, it goes back, it asks you if you need anything else, it converses with you, and it goes back to the back and grabs other things and brings your cutlery to you and everything else. One of the biggest issues I have when I go physically shopping still is half the time when I go to look around to see someone, there's no one to be found, and I got to spend 10 minutes wandering around the store to find a sales associate to even give me a hand. And so I wonder at what point will we have this phalanx of robotic associates that are rolling around, and they've got screens on the front of them and they look like a robot, but they can converse with you. You can ask them questions of it with AI, and it has full knowledge of the in-store and where the item is at. It says, here, follow me, I'll take you directly where. What are you looking for today? Are you stuck? Do you need some product information that it can pull from the website, display on the screen as it stands in front of you, give you all the information you need, recommend that you download the app if necessary so you can have it in your pocket as you navigate around. I just don't think that most, even something as simple as that, as a rolling robot roving around the restaurant or rolling around the big box store, answering questions for people and guiding them and hand holding them like a concierge as they go around and shop, and making sure that they don't, because they can see with machine vision, they can see the frustration metrics. It just shows on your face. And
Yeah.
with facial recognition, they know when someone's pissed off. They know when they're not finding, when they walk up and down the same aisle 5 times, they're probably not finding the damn thing that they're looking for. So the reality is that again, I just go back to the fact that the technology is there to eliminate these buyer frustrations. It's just not being deployed widely enough, and it's not being integrated in a meaningful way for customer benefit.
Yeah, I think the ability to do it is there, as you mentioned, but people move slowly. We have an office in San Fran, and I took a Waymo, and the Waymo cars, they're fully automated.
Yes.
They still have side view mirrors, rear view mirrors, and a steering wheel. And I asked the question, why? Is it because if we don't see those things, or if there wasn't a windshield and there was just a TV screen, would we be freaked out? Because are people ready for that level of change where you don't even see where you're going? And there's some aspect of it's what people are ready for in your average store. Let's say not your cutting edge super techies store. And then there's the lawyers. I hate to say this,
Yeah.
mine aren't listening, but they get in the way, right? They'll start to tell you why you can't put a robot in the store because people will intentionally do this, or there'll be an accident and everybody will sue, or the unions will say you can't. So there's all this kind of legal and compliance questions because it's so new. Now, warehouses are much more controlled environments because there's no consumers in warehouses.
Yeah.
So you can control you can't because I've experienced it, but you can control what people do in a controlled warehouse and environment, but you can't. So that's why you're only seeing it in the sushi places, right? It comes around and it's got the right safety technology to just bring a plate to you and go back. The other thing is that humanoids don't yet move and operate like humans. So you can't mimic a lot of the behavior that a human would have to do in a store. So that's a long way around to get you to, I see it being like a stepping stone. So I see robotics being used in the non-customer facing aspects of a store first. I could be wrong. Talk to me in a year and tell me I missed it, but I'm not a futurist. But I think you'll see like backroom activity, behind the counter activity being automated with robotics, repeat activities, things like that. And then the store associate, we're working on that. So we're innovating in that, and we're doing a lot of thinking. We're doing a think tank thing over the weekend, just trying to figure out if you're doing this, Jason, how do you want to interact with the store? If we had all the information, inventory, catalog, your preferences, we can see the look on your face, but how would we interact with you? Would it be on your phone? Would it be on a kiosk? Would it be a humanoid? Those are the things that we're trying to solve. That's where we want to be. We want to have that answer soon. So that'll be our next big thing that we come out with. But that's the stuff we're thinking about. But You have to make some big technology bets there.
Yeah.
And going straight to humanoids in stores or rolling robots in stores, there's a few challenges right now that I think is what's holding people back. Some of those things I said.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a bleeding edge early adopter, although I'd say I'm pretty close. I'm probably more of a fast follower in terms of most technology. I don't always go out the day the latest iPhone or Android is released. I'm not queuing up overnight to get the latest cell phone, but I'm like maybe one generation behind the latest. Or I don't necessarily go and get the latest laptop the day that it's released, order online the day that it's released, but I'm it's not like I'm ever 5 years behind on technology. I'm a fast follower, but that even for fast followers, we're still pretty early in the adoption curve. And so when you get to on that bell curve, that fat middle is for people, a lot of people in that fat middle of the demo that go to these physical stores might be pretty damn freaked out if a robot rolled up to them and say, "Hey, how can I help you? How can I help you today?"
That's right. Or if you think about like when the reaction people give or the stuff you see online when you realize your phone's listening to you. And I'm not
Yeah.
a conspiracy theorist here,
Yep.
but I was talking to some neighbors about very discreet, like something that I never thought I'd be talking about, but it was a toddler's Halloween costume, right?
Right.
I think that's what it was. And a couple days later, guess what I was seeing ads for? And I was like,
Okay, my phone
yeah,
is definitely listening to me.
yeah. But you get that freak out from people like, I didn't give you permission for this, right? And
Yeah.
so some of what we could really do in stores involves listening and looking. We have to look at you to see your expression. Now it's anonymized data. We don't know you're Jason unless you
Yeah.
opt into something like that. But still, it freaks people out. If I notice you're frustrated, how can I help you out? Like, how do you know I'm frustrated? What's going on? Are you watching me?
Yeah.
But then there's a generation of people that would be like, thank God you're here.
Well,
I've been
I
trying to
would be
figure
that
this.
generation.
Yeah,
I
like that too. I would probably wonder what happened, but those are like the things we're trying to think of. Like, how do you introduce it softly,
Yeah.
right? Because like we have all the data. We can look with cameras and see that you're frustrated. The cameras that are already in the store, we don't have to replace them,
Yeah.
right? They're
Already
already
there for
there.
security anyway.
Yeah, those cameras have enough fidelity that you can catch expressions. You can say 40-year-old female, 50-year-old male, those kind of generalizations. You can pick that out from those cameras. You have the inventory data, ultra wideband, right? You get where they're walking around. You can see everything that's going on. Now, how do you introduce the engagement? That's the big,
Question
billion
mark.
dollar question. Yeah.
And for every business, it's going to be slightly different because the type of demographic of customer that they court and the experience that those customers, even if it's the same customer going into two stores side by side, the experience that they expect to get from one supplier could be very different to the experience they expect to get from another supplier. If an IKEA store and a Home Depot store are side by side, the experience I'm expecting to get when I walk into Home Depot is very different to what I'm going to expect to get in an IKEA store. And so that's the hard bit too, is that the same individual, the same human being may want something different from their in-store experience from two different retailers that are
Yeah.
physically
Yeah.
literally side by side.
So expectations, that big thing you're talking about. But if you lifted up a shirt in a store, say you're in a fashion store, a big like maybe a high-end fashion store, and you lift up a shirt. Now if a human store associate walked up to you and said, you would look great in that color, and let me tell you, with those pants or those shoes, it would be killer. In that instance, you might be like, yeah, okay, let me see those. Do you have those in my size? What if a digital store
Assistant.
associate said
Yeah,
that to you?
exactly.
That's going to look amazing on you, Jason.
Yeah.
Like, would you be freaked out? I don't know the answer to that question. Would you be like, is that a lie? Are you lying to me? You don't. So those are the things we're like thinking about. How do we start this process, this digital engagement in a store? Those are some of the R&D questions we're working on with some companies right now.
Well, also marrying together, if the consumer wants you to, marrying together not only the in-store data, the prior purchase data, the placement data in the store, the general understanding of the types of customers you normally cater to, But then if they bring their own agents along that can help inform and share data and information with
Yes.
the in-store agent and with the in-store technology, of course it's got to be opt-in. But like, for example, ChatGPT, which I long since have installed an app in Brave that redirects all my web queries to ChatGPT now, and has done for the last 6-8 months now. So I haven't done a Google search, and I can't remember the last time I did a Google search. And so ChatGPT knows a hell of a lot about me, and it knows a lot about my preferences, and it knows a lot about the things that I bought in the past, and it knows a hell of a lot about me. And so that's its own
Yeah.
form of lock-in. And if I so chose to share that type of intelligence data with a retailer so that my in-store experience could be better, then when that bot tells me that would look great on you based on all the other things I know that you've got in your wardrobe, the types of things I know you like to shop for, the types of colors I know you prefer, the types of your hair type, your skin color, all those different things that we already know about you, if we can merge that together with the in-store recommendation experience and the recommendation engine, instead of you having to manually tell us what your preferences are, no, we just gather that from all the other interactions you've already had with your AI bot already. As long as you choose to opt in and share that data with us, and we can go out to OpenAI, and we can go out to Grok and everything else based on your email address, and we can retrieve that data down with your permission. That now starts to become game changing, because instead of just having in-store data and having generalist data, demographic data about our customers, we know about you, Jason, our customer, Jason. And we don't just know about your previous purchase history with us, which you may only have made 1, 2, 3 purchases with us previously, but we now know about everything that informs your purchase decision psychologically in your life.
That's right. And what you're talking about, I'm very I've nerded out on this personal agent thing. And I hope retailers realize that is way more valuable than their own loyalty program that they're running. Because
100%.
yeah, because it's like you're walking around with your personal assistant like a movie star,
Yeah.
right? I know exactly what he likes. And these are oh, you have some of that? Okay, cool. Let's talk about it. And it's not limited to whatever e-com or in-store program you've had, because that's only limited to what does he or she buy in your store. That agent thing should leapfrog loyalty programs and allow, if a retailer engages that properly, that is going to be big game. I'm nervous, Jason, that they'll get proprietary and try and make it their own
Yes.
shopping agent. And
Totally.
that's not the way to go here. The way to go is embrace that thing and
Yep.
say, here's my APIs, come get my stuff,
Yep.
bring your agent along. We'll find you what you need, and we'll get it to you. If we don't have it in our store, we'll get it to you in a day. We'll ship it home. But yeah, that is going to be so cool, that agent infrastructure. I actually was just asked by another LLM, do you want to carry a test agent with you? I was like, first, let me read what's going on here. I need to read a little bit about it, and then I'll say yes. So I said, call me in a week.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. It's all headed that direction. There's no question about that, because people will give up almost any, in my experience, the fact that we carry one of these things within 2 inches of our body 24 hours a day, people will
Right.
give up almost any amount of privacy we ask them to for extreme convenience, and people will do a lot for convenience. It's that simple, especially personalized convenience. People will give up a lot for that. It's a two-way street of benefits there. There's a value exchange that is very tangible for the brand and for the consumer, and I think that's a really important part of this. Now, for you guys, do you provide, from a hardware perspective, from an in-store perspective, do you provide the physical POS layer? Do you provide the POS software layer? Or do you just provide the data and intelligence layer and the RFID layer that sits on top of an existing point of sale system that you integrate with existing point of sale systems, or both?
So we're at our core, we're a software company, intelligent software company, and so we'll bring the RFID companies to the table, the RFID reader companies. We stay away from POS. We get the POS data in our software, but we don't do POS. We don't sell POS. And so in the stores, we're a software store associate layer, a management layer. So everything but POS that you can imagine happening in the store, we do that. But we can't really sell it that way because we're still a new player, last year or two. So what we do is we fix their inventory problem first, and then they realize all the other problems that solves related to the associate, replenishing stock, moving stuff around, compliance. We start with inventory and kind of expand out from there, because we're not one of those big guys, IBM, Oracle, Salesforce. So we have to work our way around a little bit. But yeah, no POS. We introduce the hardware players that we certify. And that's what we do in the warehouse too. We do have one robot that we manufacture, but we have 20 others that we don't, 20 plus others that we don't. We just introduce those players. We put the software in that runs the show, and that's the majority of what we do. Of course, we have to do a lot of consulting. We don't have a consulting business, but we have to bring in experts to teach people how to do this, teach the retailers how to do this, teach their warehouse people how to do this. But it's all software.
Love it, love it. You have to bring in people like me to help them do.
Exactly.
Although my focus is mostly for the last 5 years in my consultancy, I've been focusing just so heavily on the B2B world, and it's a world I absolutely love. So I don't really deal with retailers anymore. But I tell you, the world of retail is always interesting. It's always fun. It's incredible. But B2Bs also need a lot of this technology, and reality is that a lot of B2Bs, manufacturers and distributors, they have a store footprint themselves for people for the trade to come in and pick things up, etc. So yeah, it's a very interesting time to be in this space. And I tell you, I've been working on my own. I was working on an app. I couldn't find anything out there to do exactly what I wanted from a content perspective, and so I've just been coding the last week on Lovable, just vibe coding. I'm not a coder. I'm a super technical non-developer. I think the last time I wrote a piece of code was when I was about 13 years old on an old TRS-80, but which was obviously a hell of a long time ago. But I tell you, this whole ability now to vibe code and to have effectively a co-pilot that you can interact with. Yes, you still need to be technical. Yes, I, for example, with this project, I've had to go up and set up Google OAuth, and I've had to set up API keys, and I have had to at least understand how databases work and that kind of thing. But from a front end coding perspective, connecting the front end experience to the back end database and all the records that need to be there and how they need to be structured to share data back end to front end to building the UI. I describe exactly what I want from a UI perspective and what it needs to do and how it needs to work. And then it goes and builds it, and it builds it all in React. And then it immediately generates it. It shows it to me. I say, oh, I don't like that. Can you change that? Can you change this text? Can you change that button? Can you change the logic behind this? And then boom, 30 seconds later, it's made all those updates and I get to try it again. It's a brave new world out there. And I tell you, it's data button bubble. There's 10 major players in this vibe coding space now. But I tell you, I think in 5 years' time from now, maybe even 2 years' time, the amount of software in the world is literally going to explode because for $100, I've been able to develop an app that I would have had to pay a software development house, I don't know, maybe $5,000, and it would have taken a month and how many scoping phone calls and everything else, where I can just build on the fly and describe what I want on the fly and then tweak it on the go. It's a pretty exciting space to be in right now, isn't it?
I was saying it's like Christmas for someone like me because I'm not a coder,
Yeah.
right? But when I go talk to somebody and say, "Can you imagine this? This is my dream for what we would do." And then this actually happened with a consultant, and he came back and he goes, "Is this what you were thinking about? I thought about what you said last weekend, and I did this." Like, what? And he didn't explain to me how he got there, but it was definitely something like what you did,
Yeah.
right? He needed to know what to do and what it needed to do. And after that, he was like, "Oh yeah, the rest is easy. I can just plug it into the system I built here that generates code."
It's amazing, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah.
It's absolutely wild. Listen, it's been a fascinating conversation. I love any company that's doing things at the bleeding edge of technology, that's trying to really transform how consumers and brands interface with each other, because like I said before, most of commerce is really just logistics with a pretty face. That's mostly what it is. It's
That's right.
making sure that the right product is at the right place at the right time so the consumer can get it in their hands when they want it. And that sounds simple when you say it fast, but making it all happen behind the scenes so that can deliver for the customer, it's a heavy lift. And there's a lot of businesses that are really still struggling with this. So it sounds like you guys are building technology to meet that exact need for your customers and their customers. So I'm always going to be a champion of people sticking their neck out to make this happen in the real world. So very cool. What's on you guys' radar? If we're to look out over the next 6, 12, 18 months, what's like the most important things on your radar right now?
So we're solidifying all the stuff that you talked with me about, the RFID, rolling that out at a bunch of customers right now. So it's gone from concept to reality. Now it's just hardening it. And just like everything else in this space, it's rolling it out. And then the next step is the human aspect. What traffic is moving through the stores and how does it interact with the inventory? That's on the retail side. And on the robotics side, we're going out to people like you and saying, look, we can only scale so much. We need to teach everybody who does consulting and B2B, B2C. we need to teach you how this robotic stuff can change the game for all sizes of customers. So I think we're really about how do we teach the people that are really plugged into the industry how to do this robotics thing. So you don't have to be an Amazon or a Walmart or one of the big guys to do it. You can do it with your medium-sized company.
I love that. Democratizing access to cutting edge internal logistics technology. I think that's, if I had to sum it up, that's how I'd sum it up. That'd
Right.
be pretty
That's
accurate.
right. Yeah, that's accurate. This has been a real fun conversation, Jason. This is the stuff I like to talk about.
I love it. I love it. Now, as we do come down to the end of our time together, I will make sure and drop a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes, as well as a link to your website. But other than that, if people want to reach out and have a conversation with you about all things logistics, in-store, insights, data, customer experience, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Just go to greyorange.com and you can click on warehousing supply chain, or you can click on retail, and you'll get right to somebody like me.
I love it. I love it. Now, this is the point of our conversation where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you, let you ask me one question, any question it can be personal or professional. Troy, and I'm going to make sure, I'm probably going to butcher this, but I remember you said my surname sounds like sci-fi. Siwek. What is your
That's right.
question for me today?
You do this for a living along with your consulting. Like, you got any good recommendations for me on a headset? Because I think I've thrown away about 20 of them now because somebody tells me they don't like how I sound at an airport. You got any tips?
Yeah, this is a HyperX headset, and it's actually a gaming headset is what it's originally designed for. And I found that I've got I've got a couple of really high-end microphones here for podcasting with the old podcasting arm and everything else. But I found that, and I've tried multiple different microphones and I've tried multiple different setups, and I've got some sound deadening material on my far wall. But I have just found that a headset still to this day provides the best audio experience for recording. And so I've just stuck with it. So I think any high-end gaming headset, I do like the HyperX products, but there's a lot of brands out there that are really good. Sennheiser makes some really good stuff. And you can pick one up for 150 bucks that's like really good. So yeah, I would say something like that, but don't go wireless. I find that this one actually can be wireless. It's actually got the ability to be wireless. It's actually got a battery in it, but I actually plug it in with a USB-C is what I have. I have this one wired just because I find that there's a tiny bit of lag in wireless, and I find that the audio quality is just not quite as good as a wired connection just yet.
That's perfect. I just find myself in situations where I'm in a noisy environment. I'm sure you get it in consulting, and I just can't find even the AirPods were supposed to be the next gen, but it's probably the wireless part of it. But yeah, that's helpful.
I love it. I love it. Listen, it's been a fabulous conversation. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure we'll cross paths in Chicago at some point. I head over to your side of the world from Puebla City, Mexico, where I live. I head up to Chicago a number of times a year for lots of different conferences and events. So I'll have to look you up next time I'm there, and we'll go out and we'll grab a beer.
Absolutely.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.